They called him the King of Pop, but here's what most people don't know. Michael Jackson wasn't just a genius on stage, he was a certified genius. Period. His IQ was measured at 142. That puts him in the top 0.2% of the entire human population. And when you compare that number to Albert Einstein, something shocking emerges. Something the music industry never wanted anyone to focus on, because if people understood how intelligent Michael actually was, they'd have to completely reconsider every decision he made, every move he calculated, every risk he took. There was one moment when Michael's intelligence became so undeniable that even his harshest critics had to stop and reassess everything they thought they knew about him. This video will show exactly why Michael Jackson's mind was just as revolutionary as his music, and by the end, the King of Pop's career will never look the same again. Let's dive in. Let me paint the picture. In the early 1980s, during the height of the Thriller era, Michael Jackson agreed to undergo a series of psychological and cognitive assessments. This wasn't for publicity, this was private, clinical. The kind of testing that measures pattern recognition, spatial reasoning, memory retention, and abstract problem solving. The results came back at 142. Now, to put that in context, the average IQ is 100. A score of 130 puts someone in the gifted range. Anything above 140 is considered near genius to genius level. Michael Jackson scored 142. That's higher than 99.8% of the population. But here's where it gets interesting. Albert Einstein's IQ is commonly cited as around 160. He never actually took an IQ test, so that number is a posthumous estimate based on his work and achievements. But let's use it as the benchmark. The gap between Michael at 142 and Einstein at 160 is only 18 points. In the world of cognitive science, that gap is not as massive as most would think. Both are operating in the genius tier. Both are seeing patterns most people can't see. Both are thinking multiple steps ahead of everyone around them. Now, here's the kicker. Einstein revolutionized physics. Michael revolutionized an entire industry. And when anyone looks at how Michael approached music, marketing, business, and performance, they start to see the same kind of systematic genius that Einstein applied to science. Think about what that means. This wasn't just talent. This wasn't just endless rehearsal. This was a mind operating at a level that allowed him to see the entire chessboard while everyone else was focused on the next move. But that's not all. Let's talk about what a 142 IQ actually enables. People at this level don't just memorize information, they synthesize it. They see connections between seemingly unrelated concepts. They predict outcomes before others even understand the variables. And Michael Jackson did this constantly. Take the Thriller music video. In 1983, music videos were 3-minute promotional clips, low budget, minimal story. Michael saw something else entirely. He envisioned a 14-minute short film with a narrative arc, Hollywood-level choreography, cinematic production value, and a premiere event. He convinced Epic Records to invest $500,000, an unheard-of amount at the time. People in the industry thought he was insane, but Michael had already calculated the return. He knew that if you make something undeniable, the entire industry would have to restructure around it. And that's exactly what happened. Thriller didn't just succeed, it redefined what a music video could be. MTV went from occasionally playing black artists to building their entire programming around music videos because of what Michael proved was possible. Within 6 months, the network's viewer ratings doubled. That wasn't luck. That was strategic intelligence applied to art. This is where it gets deeply personal. Michael wasn't just smart in a conventional academic sense. His intelligence manifested in pattern recognition across multiple domains simultaneously: music theory, choreography, visual storytelling, business negotiation, brand management, cultural timing. He was operating like a supercomputer running multiple complex programs at once. Bruce Swedian, Michael's longtime sound engineer, said something that really captures this. He said Michael could hear a full arrangement in his head before a single instrument was recorded. Not just the melody, the entire production, every layer, every texture, every sonic choice. That's not normal musical ability. That's cognitive processing at an extraordinary level. Think about what that means. When Michael walked into a studio, he wasn't experimenting to find the sound. He already knew what it should sound like. He was directing engineers and musicians to recreate what his mind had already perfectly constructed. That's architectural thinking applied to sound. But wait, There's more to this genius that most people never consider. Michael's intelligence extended into his understanding of human psychology and mass behavior. He knew exactly how to create mystery, how to control narrative, how to make absence create demand. Look at his public appearances in the 1980s, carefully calculated, always an event. The single white glove, the military jackets, the sunglasses. These weren't random fashion choices. These were psychological triggers designed to create an iconic, instantly recognizable visual brand. Michael understood that in a media-saturated world, you need a symbol that cuts through noise. He engineered his own iconography the way Einstein engineered thought experiments. Now, here's where it gets even better. Let's talk about the Beatles catalog purchase. In 1985, Michael Jackson bought the ATV music catalog for $47.5 million. This catalog included over 250 songs, most notably the Beatles' publishing rights. Paul McCartney had actually told Michael about music publishing as an investment strategy. McCartney assumed Michael would buy his own songs back. Instead, Michael bought the Beatles. Music industry veterans were shocked. Why would the biggest pop star in the world spend that kind of money on old songs? Here's what they didn't understand. Michael had done the math. He knew those songs generated millions annually in royalties. He knew their value would only increase. He knew owning publishing gave him leverage in an industry that had historically exploited black artists. He had consulted with entertainment lawyers for 6 months before making the bid. He understood copyright law better than most attorneys. This wasn't an emotional purchase. This was calculated financial genius. By the time of his death in 2009, that catalog was worth over $1 billion. Michael had turned a $47.5 million investment into a billion-dollar asset. That's a 2,000% return. Einstein level, maybe not in physics, but in business strategy, absolutely in the genius range. Let me break down exactly what an IQ of 142 means in practical application. It means Michael could hold multiple complex concepts in his working memory simultaneously. It means he could see second-order and third-order consequences of decisions. It means he could pattern match across different domains, taking concepts from film and applying them to music, taking ideas from dance and applying them to business. Anyone who's worked in creative industries knows that true innovation comes from connecting things that haven't been connected before. Michael did this constantly. He took Bob Fosse's choreographic style and fused it with street dance. He took Hollywood's narrative filmmaking and fused it with music videos. He took classical composition techniques and fused them with pop production. These aren't accidents. These are the result of a mind that sees across boundaries. Here's exactly how that matters. When people dismiss Michael as just an entertainer, they're missing the systematic intelligence behind every choice. The moonwalk wasn't just a cool move. It was a perfectly timed reveal on the biggest stage possible, Motown 25, creating a cultural moment that would define him forever. He had practiced that move for 3 weeks in secret, refusing to show anyone until the live broadcast. The timing, genius. The execution, flawless. The impact, incalculable. But that's not all. There's one more layer to Michael's intelligence that separates him from almost anyone else in entertainment history. He understood the power of mystery and scarcity in an age of overexposure. While other celebrities were doing interview after interview, Michael became selectively silent. He understood that absence creates mythology. When he did speak, it was an event. When he did perform, it was historic. This brings us to the moment mentioned at the beginning, the moment that proved Michael's intelligence beyond any doubt. It happened during the negotiations for the Bad album in 1987. Walter Yetnikoff, then president of CBS Records, was in a meeting with Michael and his team. The label wanted to position Bad as Thriller 2.0, basically repeat the same formula. Michael said no. He wanted to evolve, to push boundaries, to take risks. Yetnikoff pushed back, citing the financial success of Thriller's formula. And this is when Michael did something that stunned everyone in the room. He pulled out a handwritten analysis, multiple pages, charts, projections, market analysis. He had studied changing music trends, emerging technologies, shifting demographics, MTV's programming evolution, and international market growth. He had breakdowns of radio formats across 23 countries. He had data on everything. Michael then explained in detail why repeating Thriller would actually be the riskier move. He argued that cultural moments can't be repeated, only evolved. He showed how the music landscape had shifted since 1982. He demonstrated why the bad album needed a harder edge, a more aggressive sound, a different visual aesthetic. He wasn't guessing. He had done the research. He had run the numbers. He had thought through every variable. The room went quiet. Because they weren't listening to a pop star. They were listening to someone who understood the industry better than the executives running it. Yetnikoff later said it was one of the most impressive presentations he'd ever seen from any artist. Michael got full creative control. Bad sold over 35 million copies and produced 5 #1 singles. Michael had been right. Again. That was the moment. That's when the industry had to reckon with the fact that Michael Jackson's success wasn't luck. It wasn't just talent. It was intelligence, strategic, systematic, genius-level intelligence applied to every aspect of his career. Let me break down what someone with Michael's IQ could never bring to their career compared to an average entertainer. They could never have the pattern recognition to see trends before they happen. Michael predicted the global explosion of music videos. He predicted the rise of brand-driven celebrity. He predicted the importance of owning intellectual property. They could never have the spatial reasoning to choreograph movements in three-dimensional space the way Michael did. His dancing wasn't just steps, it was architecture in motion. They could never have the memory capacity to absorb and integrate influences from James Brown, Fred Astaire, Marcel Marceau, and Bob Fosse into one cohesive style. They could never have the abstract reasoning to understand that a glove, a jacket, and a dance move could become a global language. They could never have the strategic foresight to know that buying publishing rights would be worth more than any recording contract. They could never have the emotional intelligence to connect with billions of people across every culture, every language, every barrier, and they could never have the cognitive endurance to maintain that level of output, that level of innovation, that level of excellence for over 4 decades. Here's exactly how to think about it. Einstein saw the universe differently than other physicists. Michael saw the entertainment industry differently than other artists. Both were operating on a plane most people can't access. The difference is we celebrate Einstein's intelligence because physics is understood to require genius. We don't celebrate Michael's intelligence because we assume entertainment is just about talent and charisma. That assumption is wrong. After examining the evidence, the comparison becomes clear. Michael Jackson's 142 IQ wasn't just a number. It was the engine behind every innovation, every risk, every calculated move that redefined what it meant to be an entertainer. The 18-point gap between Michael and Einstein doesn't diminish either genius. It just places them in different arenas. Einstein changed how we understand reality. Michael changed how we experience it. So remember that moment in the CBS Records meeting, when Michael pulled out his analysis and proved he wasn't just the face of the product, he was the architect of the entire empire. That's when the industry realized they weren't dealing with a performer. They were dealing with a mind that saw further, planned deeper, and executed better than anyone they'd ever encountered. Michael Jackson wasn't just the best choice to be the king of pop. He was the only choice. Because nobody else on earth combined that level of artistic talent with that level of strategic intelligence. This career wasn't built. It was engineered by a certified genius who understood exactly what he was doing, every single step of the way. So, there you have it. The real reason Michael Jackson's 142 IQ puts him in the same conversation as Einstein, not because the numbers are identical, but because the application of genius to transform an entire field is identical. If you found this analysis valuable, make sure to like and subscribe for more content that reveals what really happened behind the scenes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.